Hi, it's Paul from ESPC.
Hi, it's Ash from ESPC.
And tonight, welcome to ESPC Livestream. Apologies for the slight delay, but it'll be worth the wait.
We are really excited to be back here at the Sky Bar in Edinburgh, and what a view we've got, Paul, as well, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You can actually see the castle this time.
Yeah, we did this event in January, and we wanted our money back because we couldn't see a thing, but look at that, it's absolutely fantastic.
So what a view and what a night we have in store for you as well. So first of all, we just want to say a big welcome and thank you to absolutely everyone who has tuned in and is live streaming currently across one of our social platforms. We're delighted that you could join us, and we're here to talk about all things property tonight. So you're also in good company. With us tonight we have a lovely live audience.
They seem very happy to be here, Ash.
Exactly, thank you. We've also got an amazing panel of our solicitor agents and industry experts who are here to answer any of your burning property questions. So we've got a lot of great content in store for you this evening. We're going to have a look back at the market so far in 2023. We're also going to discuss some key stats and headline figures over the last 6 months. We'll have a discussion with our panel who will share some expert insight as well and what that means for buyers and sellers. We'll also be touching on mortgages and lettings. We know that's been quite a hot topic recently.
Absolutely.
So yeah, definitely get in touch about that. But most importantly, it is an opportunity for you to get in touch and ask us any questions that you have about property at all. And you can do this through streaming on one of our social platforms. So please just get in touch. We'll also be asking some questions from the audience as well. But before we delve into the property market with Paul, here's a quick reminder of some of the macro events and also the economic factors that have influenced the property market so far in 2023.
Year-on-year headline inflation in May came in at 8.7%, the same as it was in April and significantly higher than the 8.4% that analysts were forecasting.
Today we've increased bank rate by 0.5 percentage points to 4% to 4.5%. We've raised interest rates to 5%.
It does that in order to squeeze people's disposable income so that money is taken out of the economy to try and bring inflation down. One of the problems with it, though, is it is only targeting a very narrow group of people. A third of the country rent, a third of the country have mortgages, and a third of the country own outright.
Demand is well outstripping supply. Many of them are planning to exit the sector. They're just feeling they no longer want to be a landlord here in Scotland.
Today, the Office for Budget Responsibility forecasts that because of changing international factors and the measures I take, the UK will not now enter a technical recession this year.
Yeah. Chancellor Jeremy Hunt is now expected to extend that support £2,500 until June, sparing households a £500 increase.
Eggs, cheddar, bread, all up massively. In fact, food prices have risen to a 45-year high of 19%.
And so today I am announcing my intention to step down as First Minister.
The breaking news to bring you. In the last few moments, Nicola Sturgeon has been arrested in the investigation into the SNP's finances.
So house prices are down 1.1% on this time last year. It's a 0.5% contraction on the last month. And across the UK, the average house price in February was £257,406.
Okay, there we go. Good job of sitting down after that. Stubborn inflation, interest rate rises, and the rocketing cost of egg, cheddar and bread. But there is a serious point to all this, really, isn't there?
There definitely is, Paul. So as we can see from that video, that's very much the macro picture as to what's been happening across the UK. But let's talk more local performance. So we cover Edinburgh, Lothians, Fife and the Borders. What's been happening in the last 6 months? Yeah, so we'll have a look now at the statistics for the period January to June 2023, and the first thing that we'll look at is the average house price. Lots of headlines about house prices crashing and
30% reductions, etc., etc. The reality is, for the first 6 months when we compare to last year, we've seen an increase in average house price by 0.5%. The average house price now sits at £275,376. So fairly static, really. It's up a little bit, it's down a little bit, but overall, as I say, no house price crash here. If we then look at activity, and when we talk about activity, we're talking about sales and we're talking about listings. Sales are down 12.6% compared to last year, and listings are down 3%, but we're comparing against a really, really busy 2022, and it's busy mainly because we still had the sort of ripple effect from the pandemic, really. People relocating to different areas, people working from home, hybrid working, meaning that you wanted to move house, to have a home office, etc., etc. As I say now, I think things are settled down and rebalanced slightly.
Brilliant, thanks, Paul. So in terms of how quickly properties are moving, if we were speaking to a seller, what would you be saying? How's that been sitting in the last 6 months?
Yep, first thing I'd say is using the ESPC solicitor estate agent. We have some here tonight. That's the only plug of the night. But the second thing, I mean, certainly we're just going to talk about averages here. So each property will be different, and we'll be talking to our panel about approach and strategy to selling. But certainly if we look at the averages, first off, time to under offer. So from coming on the market to the medium time to sell, sits at 22 days. Interesting enough, if you look at England and Wales, it's 6, 8 weeks, 12 weeks. So, you know, the ESPC solicitor estate agents really are beating the overall macro market. Slightly slower than last year, 15 days last year, but again, good reason for that, which I'll come to shortly. The other interesting point is the percentage of properties selling for the home report value or higher at 78.3%. So pretty much 4 out of 5 properties are achieving a home report value or higher. And those that are, they're paying a premium, so the average price achieved is a 103.1% of the overall home report price. Last year's 107, so it's cooled slightly, but overall, still very, very strong. And as I say, premium is still being paid.
That's great, Paul, and also very encouraging for both buyers and for sellers, I guess?
Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about why it's encouraging for buyers in a moment, but I think overall, as I say, the market is holding up well.
Yeah, and is there any other stats or comments that you'd like to make over the last 6 months that you can tell everyone about?
Absolutely. There's just 2 key points I'd want to get across. One of the reasons why we're seeing properties taking that just a little bit longer to sell is the overall stock that's available. So properties available to view on ESPC are up 48% year on year. So a little bit more choice out there for people. And secondly, I think we're seeing a little bit more of properties going to fixed price. So again, that's good news for first-time buyers, and we'll talk to our panel about that later, about why that's good news. But in short, it means you haven't got to find that dreaded double deposit. First, you know, a fixed price means you simply need to find a deposit for the mortgage. You're not having to then pay a premium and find that money as well to ultimately secure that property. But if I could summarize, I think despite the gloomy headlines that we're seeing on the macro, the national picture, the local picture is still pretty good. Prices are holding up. Yes, we are seeing a slight reduction in the premium, but as I say, overall properties are still selling and selling well. And we're kind of returning to 2019 levels in terms of the general number of properties coming to the market, the general number of properties selling. So, as I say, I think just a rebalancing slightly, but a return to normality.
Great, that's amazing. Thanks, Paul.
Okay, that's the sort of headline stats that we have for the property market, but no property review would be complete without a chat about the lettings market and the mortgage market. So we're going to have a chat with our expert panel. I think probably the wisest thing to do here is we'll get everybody to say hello, introduce yourselves. So Ash, do you want to organise the introductions?
I can certainly do that. Hi guys, how's all doing?
Good.
Good. We're so happy to have you here, so thank you so much for joining us today. Well, we just do some introductions, and Nikki, can we start with you, and then we just go round?
Yeah, sure, thanks Ash. My name's Nikki, and I'm Head of Lettings at ESPC Lettings.
Thank you.
I'm next, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm Zaina, I'm the Sales Director at Watermans.
I'm Jamie, and I'm the Property Manager at Blacktown.
I'm Craig, I'm a partner at McDougall McQueen.
I'm David, I'm a Mortgage Advisor at ESPC Mortgages.
Thank you guys, and thanks Zaina for being here on the 4th of July. Being American, I thought you may have other things to do. You brought us some Star and Spangled strawberries, which we're having later. You are all welcome. Nikki, if I can come to you first, just have a chat about lettings. When we did our last live stream event, you were saying that demand was outstripping supply at that point, and I asked you for a prediction. You said it would be the same, Paul. As we got into the middle of the year, it's still be seen the case. So, chance for you to now mark your homework, Nikki. Were your predictions correct?
I got an A+, yes.
More than I ever got, Nikki, at school, so well done.
So, yeah, the market for people looking to rent is still tricky. There are over 550,000 people living in Edinburgh, and 22% of that are in the private residential sector. So that's a large percentage of people looking for properties, and there is still a shortage of properties. It's a number of reasons. We see kind of some landlords that are maybe a little bit nervous. The mortgages are increasing. They're deciding to get out of the market. People returning back to live into their homes. Some we've had where maybe sons, daughters come to university in Edinburgh, and rather than try and find their own rental property, they're moving into ones that their parents have previously rented. Sure. Tenants staying for longer, all sorts of things. So it's a real mixture of what's going on, but the strong line still is that demand is way higher than the stock levels, and
that may continue. We'll come to our predictions later. I'll ask you this, Nikki, because there was a really interesting article that the BBC had last week. It was talking about rent inflation. So, annually rents going up. And interestingly enough, Edinburgh had the greatest inflation of all the cities in the UK at 13.7%. I think the thing which may puzzle the audience is we supposedly have rent caps in place which stop rents going up by that much. So, what's happening there?
So it can be known, or has been known, as the cap trap. So this means essentially landlords where their tenants are in situ are only able to at the moment increase by a maximum of 3%. But what that does mean is that landlords, when they have a property that's come into the market and they're looking for a tenant for the first time, is really they can set that rent at almost anything that they like. Yeah. So that's really seeing the difference between continuing tenancies and new tenancies, and that gap is getting wider. We've seen highest rent, so I think it was for the first time ever, Scotland-wide, we saw rents at over £1,000 a month, and in Edinburgh the average rent is just over £1,300 a month. So there are big rents, and I think the government's idea of putting a cap hasn't really worked because people have seized an opportunity to increase where they can. So
when they can, yeah. So when a property becomes vacant and they have that opportunity, they're absolutely taking it because they don't know when the next time they could do that.
Absolutely, and because properties are so scarce, tenants are able and willing to pay those increased rents when they're coming for a first-time tenancy.
Yeah, again, this is all down to supply, isn't it? And we were just talking earlier over one of Zane Strawberries about your new listing that you put on this morning.
Yeah, that's right. We put on a one-bedroom flat at the Grassmarket, and literally within 15 minutes the viewing was full, and the phone was ringing off the hook. As soon as something comes to the market that's in a good location, it's good quality, there are tenants out there that are just jumping in straight away. So things are renting really quickly. Average time to let at the moment is 18 days. So things are moving pretty quickly.
Yeah, and so I suppose if I was to push you for a prediction for the next 6 months of the year, and we can come back in January and see if you're right, what would you say, Nick?
More of the same, really. So I can't imagine that as we move through to the summer and then the new influx of students come the next academic year, there's going to be even more people arriving in the city, so there are going to be more people looking for flats, there's more demand. So what I would say is, if you were thinking about investing in a property, don't be put off by additional dwelling tax, don't be put off by mortgages. It's a good thing that you're doing, and potentially you can get some good prices, and you can really make a good investment opportunity.
But you make a good point, it is a good thing that you're doing, with the supply issue does need fundamentally fixing, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay, thank you, Nikki. That's been really informative, and hopefully you've enjoyed that insight into the lettings market. If we can turn to the mortgage market now, I think I'm still in shock, so I'll stand here and say around to talk to David. David, the mortgage market, not much has happened, I don't think. No, understatement there, absolute understatement. I was just looking back, and in June 2022, so last year the base rate was at 1%, and now we find ourselves at 5%. Only today there was an article saying that now a fixed rate is at over 6%. I mean, are there any sort 6% mortgages out there to be had at the moment, David?
Yeah, I mean, as we speak, it's a never-changing subject, but as we speak, yeah, there's still 5% rates available for certain products. A lot of the pricing is determined by what we call the loan-to-value. The loan-to-value is basically the size of your percentage deposit against normally the valuation of the house in Edinburgh. It's valuation or purchase price, whichever is the lower figure, but in Edinburgh that tends to be the valuation. And you see rates in the 5s if you've got a 40% deposit all the way maybe down to 25%. Sadly, as we speak, it's slightly on the increase, and certainly if your deposit's north of 25 and you've got like 5, 10, 15%, then they are in the 60s at the moment.
Okay.
I suppose the rare thing that's happening at the moment is we're finding the 5-year fixed rates are actually priced cheaper than the 2-year fixed rates, which is very rare because normally you're paying extra for that long-term stability.
And why would that be then, David? What do you think that's?
Well, there's probably quite a lot of crystal ball gazing, I would imagine, but I think obviously a lot of people expect that things will get better through time in years 2 or 3, and they feel that rates will get slightly better, so in return you're paying a slight premium for that at the moment against the 5-year position.
So you're paying for certainty really, aren't you, as you say, and lenders generally get these things right, don't they?
Well,
do they?
yeah.
See you in 5 years.
Yeah, well, I think generally they do, but I mean the landscape over the last 2 or 3 months has changed quite a lot, and it is difficult.
Still trying to find how to price things, I think, at the moment, aren't they, to a degree. And we may see more sort of mortgage products come to the market when things are a little bit more stable and we feel we've reached that.
Yeah, I mean, there's still an appetite for lending, and there's still a lot of mortgage products out there. It's just that they're higher, basically, and it's just making sure with your mortgage advisor that you've got your affordability checks and you know exactly what your what's going to look like going forward.
And I think that's the difference from 2009 when there was real shortage, there was no liquidity, there was no mortgages available. We don't have that at the moment. And sort of speaking of which, we were talking about lettings there. There is a 100% mortgage, isn't there, which is available for first-time buyers, so you don't need a deposit. And it's available if you've been a tenant, is that right?
That's right, yeah, it's with Skipton Building Society. You have to have been a tenant for at least 12 to 18 months. The amount you can borrow, so your mortgage payments have to be equal or less to what you're paying in rent, which is quite sensible in a way because it proves that you've actually got a track record already for the last 12 months. Have to be over 21 years old, but it's available to like quite a large network of first-time buyers because it actually goes up to like £600,000 in lending, and is also available to just new build houses as well as older houses as well. So there's a criteria there, but it is quite flexible, and it is there to try and help people then use any savings they've got to and actually use that, I suppose, for the offers over in Edinburgh.
But as I say, that premiums come down and there are more fixed rate price properties out there, so hopefully that's a relatively good news, and it's about probably comparing that 100% with what they might get in the 95, isn't it? And
correct, yeah.
Doing your research, really.
It is, and it's just getting to know the client and trying to find the right solution for them.
Yeah, and David, again, probably maybe a slightly harder question because things are probably more volatile in the mortgage market, but how do you see the next 6 months playing out?
Well, I mean, the articles I'm reading, which is obviously just down to people's opinions, but I mean, we're at a Bank of England base rate now of 5%. They reckon it could go all the way up to 6% by the end of the year. So short term, I think there's going to be a little bit more pain, but hopefully things will settle down in 2024 and we can start going in the right direction again, and getting the rates gradually coming down to make everybody's sort of living a lot more affordable.
Indeed, yeah, that with inflation coming down would be a nice thing to see next year when we put that on our Christmas list. Okay, thank you, David, thank you, Nikki, for your insights. Ash, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. So I'm going to speak to our lovely solicitor estate agent just now, but I think it's safe to say that you guys are on the ground, every day dealing with buyers and sellers, so you're probably used to all these questions that are going to be coming through tonight. We just heard Paul's update about the property market over the last 6 months. There's a lot of good information in there. Craig, I'm going to start with you if that's okay. So does that reflect what you're seeing when you're out there? And I guess particularly in that sense with buyers, are you offering less and winning more bids, or what are you seeing at the moment?
I think, as Nikki said, for buyers, first-time buyers, particularly that are currently renting, they're seeing a massive increase in their rent, so they're desperate to get on the property market. It's a real driver for them. Equally, we've got the issue with the mortgages. David's explained, and what we're really seeing at the moment is that most buyers now are more prepared than they've ever been. You know, they're getting their mortgage applications, they're making sure they've got the affordability. As far as the last 6 months is concerned, we've pretty much seen a steady flow of new inquiries. We've got the same amount in May that we did in January. So buyer confidence in terms of wanting to get on the property market remains. It's fair to say that in June, that's softened slightly. Now that could be seasonal, so we don't know. But it may well be that they are now starting to take recognition that the higher mortgage rates, the affordability, are starting to affect what they're looking at. In terms of actually offers, as Paul said, the majority of the offers that we're putting in and have for the last 6 months have been offers over home report. The amount of buyer's premium has come back slightly, and certainly in the last 2 months that's starting to soften.
Okay.
That's great. Thanks so much, Craig. That was really insightful. And I think another point that we had just touched on earlier there was offers over. So we are still seeing 4 in 5 sellers achieving over the home report valuation, which is still, really encouraging. Zaina, I'm going to come to you next. So Zaina, how would you price property at the moment? I know that's quite a hard question, but would you have any advice, or how are you doing it when you're going out there to see sellers?
Absolutely. One of my favorite questions. I deal with this both when we're out pitching business, meeting a client for a pre-sale valuation, but also during viewings, speaking to buyers. What I find the most interesting is that Scotland, or most of the UK, actually has 3 price qualifiers, or the 3 most commonly used ones. So we are offers over, which is, you're trying to kind of generate some competitive interest. You are offers around, or offers in the region of, which basically kind of guides it around your kind of cap price being usually your home report value. We noticed that a lot when the market had really changed, 2009, 2010, 2011. Sellers were actually saying, whatever my home report value is, I'll put it in and offers around that level. You would then change it, or another option is fixed price, and that's usually stating, really taking the guesswork out of the offers over. This is it, this is what I'm looking for, first come, first serve at that. And I think it's interesting because compared to the world, the global market, the UK pretty much is one of the only markets that has these price qualifiers. In America, in Australia, other parts around the world. I was even looking in Spain, dream home, obviously, over in Mallorca. Most of them are kind of at listed prices, so they don't actually say if it's 239,995, it's just 239,995. It's not offers over, offers in the region of, fixed price. So that's really interesting, and I think when I'm discussing with sellers about how to set their pricing, there's so many factors that are involved. So we're looking at what their position is. So have they already offered on their next property? And we're looking at a timeline. Has the people that they've offered on, have they set them saying you need to be on the market within a week and under offer within 4 weeks thereafter? Because I've got that deadline, I might be a bit more aggressive with the offers over price. Or is it a first time buyer style property? Do I want to maybe bring back my offers over nearer to what the home report value is, so that I'm bringing in the most realistic type buyers? You'll sometimes also take into account area. I think this is really interesting because my husband and I, we sold our flat in Edinburgh last year. We went across the bridge, moving over through to Fife. That was a whole wild, wild west kind of situation. We very much learned that it's offers over what the home report value is there, which to us as a buyer, it was interesting because it was pretty much, that's what it was. We knew when we saw a property that's, home report value is there. A new one just came on with another solicitor estate agent, ESPC member, and it was Morgan's today, and I saw it because it's near enough where we live, and they were offers over 375. I downloaded that home report. It's 375. But you find different other areas. So like Mid Lothian, East Lothian, pockets of West Lothian and Edinburgh are typically still offers over. Areas down at the border still are some offers over the home report or offers over just slightly under. Other areas of West Lothian, you might just kind of get rogue ones that might go offers over the home report value. So it totally does depend. But I think a lot of it comes down to what a seller's position is and what they're looking to do.
Yeah.
Great. So come and speak to you.
Absolutely.
Any advice if you are looking to sell? Different areas, different scenarios. It's always better getting the expert advice, isn't it?
And I think we talked as well. Part of what I do, I always say it's a little bit of a chess game. So I kind of am anticipating what a buyer's doing in terms of they're anticipating what us as a seller, the seller agent's doing. So a little bit they're saying, well, if my ideal purchase price is only 200, maybe I'm going to scale back my ESPC buyer registration only to 190. And with that, if my home report value is at 200, I don't want to miss that ideal buyer. So I want to go ahead and go offers over 190 or offers over 189, 995. So there's not necessarily an exact science to it, but we just try to anticipate what the buyers are anticipating that we're doing. So yeah, a little bit of a game.
Thank you so much, Jenny. That was really insightful. Jamie, I'm going to come to you next. Sorry, last but definitely not least. So we spoke about average selling times, and we had noted that they had slowed ever so slightly. So we're sitting at 22 days at the moment to under offer in comparison to 15 days for the same time period last year. What are you saying to perhaps if you've got any clients who maybe haven't sold quite as quickly as they would have liked, or maybe they're sitting at that 6-week mark? Is there any advice or anything you'd say to them?
Yeah, obviously 22 days is still pretty quick, as Paul alluded to. In the grand scheme of things, if you look across the rest of the UK, it's still a very swift market, and it's just trying to temper expectations, because it's easy to get caught up on where we've come from and things selling within 15 days, or if it was a house going on the market one day, gone, sort of thing. So as Zaina sort of alluded to already, there are things that we can do with the price in order to try and generate more viewings and interest. Certain people will have their search categories set at certain limits, so we can potentially look at going to slightly lower offers over price in order to generate fresh interest, new buyers potentially through the door, and get that second wind. We've got some great tools available through the ESPC, which can help bring our listings to the top of the portal again. So if you've got buyers who just started their journey and are looking for their first properties, it's now hitting their searches as well. And finally, it's really that fixed price is probably the last thing that we're looking at. Ultimately, everyone is looking to sell their home for an excess of home report, but at the same time, if they've got an onward purchase and they know that they can move on by achieving a home report value, then if we fix the price at that, it is that first come, first served, in line with using some of these marketing tools at the same time to really put it out there, get it seen by as many people, and ultimately secure them that offer. It's all about, being patient and trying not to panic.
Yes.
The first thing to do is, like, after 2 weeks, is go, well, my house hasn't sold yet. So
Yeah.
it is just being patient and realising that we are in a slightly different market, and there are things that we can still do to move things along.
And I think that's it. Every situation will be so different, and you must see that all the time, guys, in your job, that not one scenario is always the same. So it's better just, I think the take-home message is here, just get that expert advice and speak to your solicitor, estate agent who can guide you through that. So yeah, thank you so much to the panel for talking us through there and giving us some commentary. So thank you again. We've now opened our live questions, so if anyone is watching at home, please just drop us a line from whatever social platform you are streaming from, and we can get kicked off to the panel with anything that you want to know more about. But Paul, I think it's over to you. I think you've got the first live one.
I'm so glad we have, but it'll be a very short show, so yes.
I can see it popping up, honestly.
It's great, isn't it? Okay, we'll start with this one first, though. Okay, what's the view from the panel on the tram running to Leith? I don't really know you're going to petition against it. I mean, I think it's there, it's running. I suppose really probably where I think the question is being framed is, will that do anything to the Leith prices? Zaina, I know you were a Leither, weren't you? So talk to us about that.
Of course, our office is down in Leith. We've got a tram stop right next to us. Definitely, it has absolutely been really great. We're excited. I've noticed, if anybody follows I Love Leith Facebook page, it was moan, but then once the trams opened up, so many positive reviews about how quick it was to get from New Haven or down in Leith all the way up to the centre of town, 20 minutes. On a bus, that would have been near an hour. So I'm very excited for it. It is absolutely, that has been an area that I've been telling people for the longest time, invest in Leith, because you will see the return. You are seeing more investors. I'm getting a lot of overseas investment where clients are saying, I want to be near, I don't want a car, I don't want to have a car, so I want to be near good bus stops, good tram stops, and that's where all the kind of vibe is happening.
Yeah.
So 100%, I'm here for it, I'm living it, absolutely, yes.
Okay, so that was an announcement
All
from the Leith Tourist Board there. That's
right there.
No, absolutely. We can see that. I mean, certainly in terms of the SPC statistics, it's the area with the most volume of sales annually, which says something. Nick, are you seeing that in terms of lettings? Would you say Leith is?
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting is the fact that people don't own vehicles as much as they used to, especially people that are renting. That younger maybe demographic that don't have a vehicle and are a little bit more environmentally aware. So they are looking for, just somewhere they can hop on, hop off, and the tram has just made so much difference. It's great, and I'm on it every day. I love it.
I was telling David a story just earlier. We had a property along an Elm Street, so just one block away from the tram stop, and that came on the market in April, so just before the tram was going to open up, and had over 117 viewings of the property, ended up with a closing date, had 13 offers. The top 2 offers were both cash investors looking at it as a buy-to-let investment, trying to speculate about the investment and I guess the growth that the tram would bring in. So I thought that was very interesting, and a way that the market was going, just to see that, you know, the other 11 offers were first-time buyers, and you had these 2 cash investors that were saying, I'm ready for it.
I think we'll look over time at the bounce from the tram line, and we'll plot where it goes next and see if that has the same, the impact on the. Okay, I mean, we've got a few questions here, so I'm just going to push on if I may. Right. Where is the cheapest place to buy a property? Craig, you caught my eye. Where is the cheapest place to buy a property?
Basement, is that what I know?
I assume you mean in our area.
No, I mean, listen, I'm a big champion of Midlothian. I think there, you've got Woodburn, Mayfield, Gorebridge is great. If I was buying as an investor, I would definitely be out in Midlothian. The yields are fantastic, space is great, and now it doesn't have the tram yet. It might, but transport links have improved massively in the last few years. So
some good value out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Jem, you have any thoughts on any areas?
Gorgie as well. We've seen a lot. We've seen things moving really swiftly around there, and again, great bus links into the city centre. We've already seen a good lift in Dalry, and I think it's starting to feed down towards Gorgie. So, good place to try and get in there early doors.
Yeah, good first time by Holland. Okay, Ash, I'll let you have a share of questions.
Yeah, thank you. We've got another one that has come in here saying, are you seeing any changes in the reasons that people are selling their homes? So that's quite interesting. Jamie, do you want to kick us off there? We can go round and just...
Sorry, say that again.
Oh, yeah, of course. Are you seeing any changes in the reasons that people are selling their homes?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time it's people are looking for more space, especially when it comes to the flat market. I think we've also alluded to some of the issues around the rental, in terms of people, I think, are just getting a bit fed up with not being able to control what they do as landlords. So we have seen quite a flood of flats come to the market of late. But majority of the time it's people just looking to go up the market and increase that sort of the space that they have, and looking to grow families tends to be the majority of the time. Occasionally it's for work, things like that.
Yeah, because I guess after the pandemic, everyone just wanted green space, didn't they?
Yeah.
So that trend of moving outside the city.
Yeah. I was going to say, we've noticed recently that there's been a lot of downsizers. So maybe people who have been in their family homes for 30, 40, 50 years that are maybe just themselves living in a big 5-bedroom sprawling detached home in the south side of Edinburgh, that maybe with a rise in the cost of living, energy, gas, that they're finding maybe that the fact that they're in this 5-bedroom home, but they're really only in 2 or 3 rooms, living room, dining room, kitchen, their own bedroom, and so they're finding that maybe the cost is they're using up all of their their equity, their money, their savings, so they're kind of going down and downsizing and looking to go into smaller properties. So I've noticed that quite a bit in the current market.
No, good point.
Is a really good segue into the next one. Is energy efficiency becoming more important for buyers? Craig, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something they all start to look at. There's no doubt about it. Everybody's looking at the utility bills, and we know, when I'm speaking to buyers, they're definitely thinking, what's the EPC rating? Where can it be improved? Yeah, it's definitely become a sort of hot topic in the last year.
I think it's interesting because we did some market research, and 10 years ago, energy efficiency on the home report wasn't really looked at, but now it's become such a big thing. We did an interesting plug for the podcast here, guys. We did an episode on retrofit and what you can do to your flat or to your home to make it more energy efficiency. The things you can do, which can make a big difference. But you're right, it's definitely moved up by your priorities.
We're getting it from the investment side, and so I know Nikki would have that as well. But when we have people that are coming in and looking at properties in Leith or other areas, Gorgie, Dalry, and other really good solid investment areas, the first question they ask is, depending on the specific rating, you'll be able to kind of, is it E now and needs to be D, or is it D and needs to be C?
Fluid, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so they were supposed to be things put in place that you had to be a minimum by kind of this year. And now that's pushed back to 2025. Inevitably, there will be restrictions where if you're renting your property for the first time, you're going to have to be at a minimum C. We're thinking that might be 2025, but they seem to be pushing out on that, and it's going to be difficult in somewhere like Edinburgh where, properties in the old town, there's not necessarily much you can do to change the efficiency of something that's, quite old. So that might be a struggle, but there will be exceptions, but it's something that both potential investors and tenants are looking at, definitely.
Indeed. Okay, I think it's back to me, isn't it, Ash? I like this question. What is the classic converted bungalow market like now in Edinburgh? So in the current climate, what's it like? Craig, any thoughts?
I mean, it's always been strong.
Yeah.
And you just have to go around some of the areas, Craigleith and the like. Some of the prices that they're achieving is fantastic.
Phenomenal.
And I can see that the demand for space, that's just going to continue. So,
So good, healthy.
Strong. Will continue to be strong.
Right, I will. I feel like I'm hogging the questions here, Ash, but I'm on a roll. I'm on a roll. Right, but the cost of living crisis creating restrictions with rental notices, etc. Are you seeing less investors entering the market as they might favour looking down south where there are less restrictions? So again, ADSs, rent caps, eviction bans. I'll come to you first, Nikki, because it is a Lothians question, but we will widen it out.
I think people are definitely looking into everything when considering, making their purchase, and it is an important thing that they consider all of these options so that they're going in, eyes wide open. Having said that, it's not putting people off investing because they can still get a really great yield because those rents are just kind of skyrocketing. So as long as you're factoring in your mortgage repayments, the additional dwelling supplement tax, you're budgeting all of that in and you're aware of that, then you should be fine. The investors that I work with, I haven't had anybody kind of really all of a sudden change their minds or start looking outside of Scotland, certainly. So it's not something that really seen. As I say, as long as you've got your eyes open and you know exactly what you're getting into, what to budget for, then it's still good.
I mean, certainly on the macro scale, the big build-to-rents, the big pension funds may be looking over cities, but just say on the ground, on a smaller basis, not quite the case. Zaina, you'd mentioned that you were dealing with an investor. Or
We're not noticing any sort of, slow down at all. I think the investment market is very strong here. You've got the university, you've just got the influx. Leith is a fantastic location. So if anything, we're actually just seeing it stronger than ever. So, I think as Nikki had said, people are very mindful of their figures, but investors have always been that way. And we always say that about first-time buyers and investors, that they are very, very aware of their bottom line. They're very aware of every penny. And so for them, when we get a property that would be an ideal buy-to-let investment, that's something that we're looking for.
Yeah, and you just say you can't be looking at over a 6-month period, can you? You've got to take a longer view on these things, haven't you, really? Ash, I'm going to give you the last question.
Thanks. Well, guys, last live questions that we've got in here is, what is the one thing I should be aware of when buying a property at the moment? So I think we'll hear from all three of you. Who wants to jump in first?
Yeah, I suppose, I think in every market there's always opportunities as well, and I think what I would say is we probably are seeing more fixed price properties. Yeah. So this, we were sort of chatting about it before, but that there was for a while this thought that you need to go in with a 10% offer. So I think the key thing I would say is speak to a solicitor estate agent who is a market expert and can give you advice on what you should be pitching, but also have a look around at these fixed price properties. That there's now more opportunities out there to get a steal, and actually if you are a first time buyer, a lot of the time you're in a very strong position because you're chain free and you're shortening the chain for an onward purchase, so you're in a really good position. So it's also just you can be a bit more aggressive sometimes with your offers.
It's the highest bid. We hear this on our podcast, the win it. It's that dynamic, that relationship between the buyer and the seller, or the certainty of a first time buyer who can proceed. Sometimes they win, but they may not be the highest bid. I think we had one, and it was the 8th highest, and
I think it was 10th. I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely, and we've seen that a lot at closing dates of late. That sellers are happy to go down the chain in order to
be able to progress with their onward purchase. So, yeah, speak to the experts. Don't listen to what your neighbours have told you.
Unless they work for an ESPC.
Yeah, I mean, I would repeat that. You know, property market isn't a singular thing. You know, and it's important. When Dougal McQueen, we operate in Edinburgh, Midlothian, East Lothian. That's 3 distinct markets. They're moving at different bits. Within that, you know, there's towns and there's areas within towns, areas within Edinburgh. There's property types that makes a big difference. You know, condition of property, but and everyone's alluded to this. It's circumstances of buyers, circumstances of sellers. That's a really key driver, and understanding that's really important before you put a bid. You can only really do that, I think, if you speak to a solicitor stage and get the advice.
Yeah, definitely. So definitely get in touch if you are looking to buy. Dana?
Okay, my one, I'm going to actually plug mortgages. Recently we've had a few, and it's something to be aware of, and it's looking through the home report and checking the construction of the build. We've had a few recently that are in specific areas over in the east side of Edinburgh, and they've been maybe dual area slab, is that one? It's a non-standard, okay, well, it's a non-standard construction. It is totally mortgageable, but those ones we've had people come in at very, very high over the home report, expecting, you know, that they need to come in with a very punchy, you know, offer. We love to take that money, but at the same time, when they come in and they start going through the paperwork, they realize actually you're not getting the best interest rates on those style of properties. So they're needing to maybe do a little bit more homework with it, and to kind of check out the construction, speak to your mortgage advisor, go through the home report in great detail with your solicitor or estate agent as well, and just make sure that you're getting the right advice on the type of property. So I would definitely say that.
Sure. It says here, last sneaky question. So I will ask this question. Since the housing prices are not falling yet while interest rates are rising, are you noticing hesitancy amongst house buyers, investors, because of the fear for future prices? So is there a fear, I mean, Dave, you talk to people every day, I guess, is there a fear that they feel they're buying at the top of the market? I mean, you know.
No, I think the interest rates are obviously seen as a negative at the moment, but particularly for first-time buyers, I think they're getting much more house for their money. They're not having to bid as an average as much over, so you could argue that they're recouping a lot of the money that they may have to be paying towards their mortgage payments, but they're having to pay less over the valuation and getting to keep more of their money back for the deposit for the mortgage, which decides the interest rate. So there's a big positive to that. It could be seen as a window of opportunity.
That's a really good way of putting it, and I think you're right. Then probably this does feel like the time when we maybe should ask you for your predictions. What shall we ask them for the predictions?
Yeah, I think it's Mystic Meg moment.
It is, okay.
Yeah,
right, so, and you were told this before you came on the show, so you know we're not going to put you on the spot here too much, but yeah, it'd just be good to get your feel for what might happen in the next 6 months. I know we've talked about lettings and mortgages, but let's look at the residential market. Zaina, if I can start with you good self.
That's fine, yes, of course.
What do you think?
There'll be more of a price sensitivity, and I think that we've seen that from the start of 2023, that what you're noticing, and as you guys have mentioned a number of times, is that property prices, they are shrinking down from what the home report value or the amount achieved over home report value, and that's because of your double deposit, where people are basically saying, well, listen, and because of cost of living, the interest rates are increasing, I'm going to actually put a more substantial deposit in to my purchase that I can bring my monthly payments down to a more affordable level. So it doesn't mean that the property prices are drastically reducing at all. I get this question asked all the time during viewings, when's the market going to crash? And my response is, that was the same question they asked me in 2020 and the market was crazy. So I think that we're just going to be noticing a more sensitivity. The guys in the back mentioned as well, first-time buyers and chain-free buyers, even investors, they're coming in with a very strong position, being chain-free or not subject to their own sale. And I think that's so important the way the market is, because we do see so many people hesitant to put their property live on the market without having their next purchase agreed. Having that kind of chain that they're entering into adds additional pressure, adds these additional timelines, and even as you guys mentioned, at closing dates we're seeing slightly lower offers coming in, and because they're the first chain-free buyer in that position, and those sellers want to actually go on to their next purchase, they want the sure thing. So I would say that that's what we're going to notice, is that we're not getting these crazy bids any longer. You'll still get the odd one, as the guys mentioned one recently, it went way over. So you'll still get the odd one, but I think it's really important to just notice people still need a home. They still need somewhere to live.
And we should first and foremost be thinking of this as a home rather than a future investment and all the rest of it, really. Really good points. Thank you, Zaina. Craig, I'll come to you next.
Yeah, I mean, Zaina's made a lot of good points there, and I'd agree. I think more of the same. It's definitely softened, in my view, in the last month. 2 months, and I think that softening will continue. Whether we'll start to see a reversal of prices, I don't know. I mean, I'm been pleasantly surprised in the last 18 months. As you say, we've seen a 5% increase in mortgage rates, and that doesn't seem to have affected it. So I can't see another 5. Probably with David, and another 1.5. What will that do? So I don't know. But I would say it's going to continue to soften. I'm not entirely sure it's going to reverse back to price drop, I think.
No, I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because when we think about the Lothians market, there's a shortage of properties available there. So I think that's helping the residential sales market in a way, you know, because, you know, certainly back in my day, it used to be if the resi sales market was up, the Lettings market was down, and vice versa. But we seem to have two rising markets.
I mean,
really.
In Edinburgh, we've got the big, the supply has been the big issue.
Yes.
We've talked about it for the last 10 years. It continues to be the big issue. So as long as that stays there, the property market's not going to move.
Absolutely, and you know, certainly all statistics would indicate there's a shortage of properties being built. We're nowhere near the targets that need to be built every year. But anyway, that's a subject for another day. Jamie?
Yeah, no, it's much and such the same. If I'm being honest, I think that there is still stock issues, and I think ultimately there'll be a bit of a split in the markets. You know, houses with garden space, I think, will still tend to generate that strong interest and premiums as people are looking for their family homes. We may well see more flats coming to the market, and that might be a bit of a stickier market, but at the same time there's opportunities there for first-time buyers, buy-to-let investors to get onto the property market for a more reasonable price than previously. So yeah, a bit of softening, and I think probably potentially two halves of the market essentially as well.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, again, looking back to the sort of 2009, and even in that market, Edinburgh market held up really well, but we saw a lot of repossessions. I think globally or nationally, there's 1/10 of the repossessions last year than there was in 2009. David, a lot of people who go for mortgages now, they're stress tested, haven't they? So even with these rises...
There's a rigorous stress test, and I mean, if you're using a good advisor as well, what they do before they buy the house is they show you your current budget, they show you what life's going to look like before you buy the house, when you buy the house. So you're going into it with your eyes wide open. Mortgage lenders don't want to repossess houses.
Absolutely
they
not.
Absolutely do not. So they take all the duty of care and due diligence to make sure that doesn't happen. Obviously circumstances change for certain people, but there is a lot of safety put in place.
And so I think since 2010 or so, with these things have been in place, haven't they, really? So you would hope that we've seen the end of reckless lending, really.
Yeah, and it's all adjusted in relation to the interest rates. All the stress tests are adjusted in relation to that, what you can borrow. It's not one size fits all for everybody's circumstances, but yeah, there's been a lot of progress in that. Okay.
Good, thank you, guys. So I think what we're hearing is that we're going to see the market be calmed as we're seeing now. Activity levels will settle back down again, but generally we're not expecting a huge price crash, and we may see things level off and the premiums reduce a little further. But again, for the right property in the right area, there's always going to be a market.
I think as you talked about, we're going back into kind of doing price comparison to 2019.
Yes.
This is the first year that we've had no COVID restrictions, no lockdown kind of implementation. And so what's interesting is Craig mentioned it, we're going into a seasonality in the market. So right now our June, July and August will tend to be a summertime months. Squeezes out and it's a little bit longer on sales times because people are on holiday and they've just got different priorities.
I tell you, that's the one thing we've noticed since COVID. You can see it on the website traffic. People are taking the holidays they never used to take the holidays sort of pre-COVID. It's changed. People are going to enjoy things now.
So I think it'll be interesting. Probably a descriptor of what will happen next year as well will be, the spring market here was really busy, and that's what we would have always seen in March, April, May, and then it, goes a little bit longer in the summer, but you then go into your autumn period, and that's where September, October, people want to be on the market and under offer and in their new home by Christmas. So I think the telltale sign will be what happens this autumn. Yeah, absolutely. But as I say, we think we'll have a reasonable market, and the travel agents are going to have a good year. I think that's what we'll take from there. Okay, I think we reached that point. We better walk back to our mark, and I think we've actually got to the point where we're going to say our goodbyes. So firstly, can I just thank the live audience for joining us tonight? Round of applause to the live audience. Wow. That was a big round of applause, We didn't get any. If we can say thanks to our panel for joining us tonight. I thought they answered the questions really, really well, so thank you, panel. And
Oh, little clap. And equally for those people at home that's watched this, we hope you've enjoyed it. We hope that you found it informative and useful. If you'd like to, you can subscribe to all things ESPC via one of our channels, including the channel you're watching tonight. If you want to know more about house prices, we do a monthly house price report, which you'll find under the news section on ESPC.com. We also do a monthly video, again, where we give an insight and an update on where we are. If you're looking to buy a property, please remember 80% of the properties that you'll find on ESPC first, up to 3 days before they appear on any other portal. So if you're serious about buying, you want to get in there first, get yourselves onto ESPC.com. Plug over, live stream event over. But yes, we're going to do another one again, aren't we?
We are. We're thinking next January again, aren't we?
Indeed.
Yeah.
We'll see if Nikki's right again.
Yeah. We'll check all the predictions.
Yeah. But seriously, thanks everyone for joining us
so
tonight.
much.
We couldn't do that without the panel, without the live audience, without you listening at home. So thanks again, and we will speak to you soon. Take care. Have a great night. Cheers.
Bye now.
Bye-bye. Bye.